we didn't have a lot of candy in our home, sweets. My mom would never keep it because it wouldn't have lasted. And they felt like that was kind of a luxury they couldn't afford at the time. But during Christmas and holidays, she would make fudge and divinity. And I think divinity probably to this day is one of my favorite candies. As far as commercial made candies, until I was in junior high, we really didn't have much of that. So the homemade candies were the favorite. We didn't go on a lot of extended family vacations. Our vacations consisted usually of an afternoon after church, running up into the mountains, having a picnic and doing a little fishing on a creek. Then my dad would have to come home and tend water. Or most of our vacation time was taken up by every Christmas we would go to Corvallis, Oregon, where my mother's family was, and we'd all go out there and have Christmas together. The one few times that we actually, what we'd call vacation time for 2 nights away from the farm, would be to load up all our horses that we had, and we'd haul them up into the mountains with our truck and our tents. And we'd always go as far back and as away as we could from where any campgrounds or other people would be. That was, I remember Dad asking us where we wanted to go, and we said, let's go where there's no people. And so we had some good times riding trails in the mountains with our horses and camping and fishing.
What is your favorite thing about your mom and your favorite thing about your dad?
Well, my mom always fed us really well. She was a really good cook. She was very compassionate of other people that had worse circumstances than she had, either illness or poverty or addictions of some kind, or mentally challenged. She would always had a project of somebody that she was taking care of in one of those categories, and she would usually work until her own health got bad and she'd come down sick. That's how hard she served other people because of her compassion for their situations. My dad, of course, taught us how to work from a very young age. He knew what our capabilities were before we did, and he would put us in positions where we could develop those capabilities and become confident of our abilities. He was a very structured, disciplined person, but he was very patient. He would always instruct us, but he would never nag us. He would let us learn by our own mistakes and suffer the consequences if it didn't work out. And that's about it for my dad.
Awesome. So who was your best childhood friend?
Well, like I said, in where I lived, there weren't many kids close my age, and especially boys. But probably one of my closest through most of my school years, starting in about the 5th grade or 4th grade, his name was Randall Clark Sorensen, but his dad had nicknamed him Pete, so we always knew him by Pete. And when he moved to Roberts, I believe we were in the 4th grade, and he was almost 6 foot tall, and the rest of us were short. And so we had a unique friendship. His father had been with a rodeo producer company, so they were kind of cowboys. He had his own horse, and I had a horse that I'd broke when I started breaking when I was 13, and him the same. And so when we got our horses broke well enough, we would ride to each other's houses. We lived about 4.5 miles away from each other. We'd bring, as we got older, well, we were old enough. We got guns when we were 12 years old, 22 rifles. We'd take those on our horses and we'd ride out into the desert behind our home or willow patches, and we'd play like we were cowboys, and we'd shoot rabbits and things like that. A lot of fantasy work. I always kind of wanted to be a mountain man. But he was about the only childhood friend that lasted clear through high school. I guess my favorite memories of my siblings through childhood, we were spread far enough apart, at least me being in the middle, that they were generally on to something a little more mature or advanced than what I was for my age. But I remember my older sister would always try to take care of us. She had a goofy friend named Orlean. They would get together and make cakes and cookies and things. And I remember one time they were always doing it the hard way, it seemed like, learning, and they made a great big cloth syringe full of frosting. And it was like 10 times more frosting than they needed for their cookies. So she got my brother and I in the kitchen, and we'd open our mouths like baby birds, and they'd squirt this frosting into our mouths. We thought it was great. We loved frosting, but after about 4 cups of it apiece, I remember we both go, "Oh, we don't want any more." It was so sweet. And I remember him laughing at that. We were so sick of eating that frosting. My brother, we always had livestock together. I remember one time we each bought 3 sow pigs, pregnant ones, and we're going to do a 4-H project with them. And within a year, we had 80 pigs. There were just baby pigs running all over. We didn't even know which pen or which mom they were supposed to be with. So we just divided them up and put them in a pen with another pig, and they raised them all. It was kind of quite a sight. But we worked very hard with our pigs. And then we had cattle projects too. We had them to our own livestock and sheep. And we would work together on the farm, learning how to drive machinery and things. My brother was always very mechanical, could fix anything, but the thing about him is he always had to tear it apart first so he knew how it worked. And he'd tear apart something that was completely functioning just so he could see how it was worked. It used to irritate me, because if I got something that was working, I didn't want anybody to mess with it. That was funny about him. And my little sister, she always wanted to tag along with us. We were we were a little mean to her. But in her innocence, she, I think, forgave us. We played a few dirty tricks on her. And my cousin and I, one time, he was my age, and he had a little sister that was Candace's age. And they were trying to play with us, and we didn't want to play with them. And so there used to be a candy called nibs. It was little chunks of black licorice they'd cut. Came in a box, said nibs on it, had a picture of all these little black chunks. And so Mark and I was going to teach those 2 little girls to leave us alone. So we ran out to the lambing shed really fast and hid from them, and we picked up sheep turds and put them in this nib box. And then we came out and asked them if they'd like to share nibs with us. And Mark's little sister started eating them, and she said, "Ew, I don't like them. They're kind of grainy." She spit them out, and Candace was a good sport. She said, "Oh, I like them. I'll eat Lori's." That's kind of mean, but that's the kind of stuff we did for entertainment.
It's cute.
I guess probably the favorite memory of my parents was their unity. You got anything there?
Uh-huh.
They always worked very hard together. They went through some really hard times in their life, like most of us do, but they hung together. They worked really hard for us as kids to make sure we had what we needed, but there usually wasn't any excess, but we did have what we needed. Later on, I remember my dad telling me, he said, well, the way I figured we would raise our family, your mom and I, was she would take care and teach you kids most of the stuff. I would provide the living. And so basically, anytime a decision was made to go on a vacation or spend time somewhere, it would be according to what Dad could do with the farm. And so my mom sacrificed a lot. We sacrificed a lot for the farm. And it worked out, because when they got to where they could retire and start enjoying a little bit about their old age, my dad, I remember him saying, well, I've always had it my way. I know my time, now we're going to spend the rest of the time.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, you don't realize.
Doing what Mom wants to do. So even though their recreation and likes didn't match up, he made sure that what they wanted to do was important. They just had to wait a little longer to do it together. So they did a lot of traveling, traveled around the world. They traveled in the wintertime with their motorhome and their trailers, got to enjoy each other's company.
That's sweet.
Oh, what did you want to be when you grew up? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, there was a couple of things. I guess the first thing I'd say, I wanted to be a hermit. I didn't really enjoy being around people. As I got a little older, I wanted to be probably the biggest cattle rancher and farmer in the state of Idaho. Read a lot of books. Well, then I wanted to be a mountain man at one time. But then I got to be what I wanted to be. I got to be farm with my mom, my dad, and my brother, and have livestock, cattle together. And life was good from that point on. And I wanted to be a cowboy, and I got to experience that part too. So right along with what I was doing for a living.
Fun.
Last one was
What's your favorite
Christmas Day tradition. Okay. Well, I didn't really have a favorite Christmas tradition. I guess the one that was most traditional was like the trips to Oregon that we take every winter until both my grandparents out there died. I didn't like the traditions that my mom was trying to get us to do, having Christmas stories and performing Christmas songs. At the time, being a young boy, I didn't really enjoy that kind of stuff. Of course, now I feel a little different about it, but it's too late.
Tell us more about your trips to Oregon.
We'd always go out there, and I had 2 or 3 cousins, families of cousins out there, and that was quite a lot of fun. We all had one our own age, and we'd just go off like a pack of wolves, and our parents would talk and eat and we'd come in whenever the meal was ready and eat, and then we'd be gone again. That was, I know Mom and Dad would put us in the back of the station wagon on sleeping bags. They'd make the whole car out. And we'd leave about 10 o'clock at night. So us kids would go to sleep, and Mom and Dad drive all night, and we'd wake up in Oregon. I guess that's one way they could keep their sanity. And of course it made the trip shorter for us. It was like a 14-hour trip. We did have a few traditions where we'd go shovel ice or shovel snow off the ice on the sloughs, and we'd have family hockey games with an old smashed tin can and some sticks, and that was a lot of fun. And my dad still had teams of horses. He would hook up the bobsleigh and the horses would pull it, and we'd hooky bob, which means you'd grab the back of the sleigh and slide along with our feet. And then he'd go really, really fast and get them going in a circle, and he'd whip us off. And then there was an old slough where you could drive cars on too, and we'd always get an old car hood or a sled and pull it out on the ice with a pickup. That was a lot of fun.
Cute. Okay, we're still rolling, so we'll do one more thing. Is that okay? It's not on there. It's
I don't
just
care.
Okay. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add about your childhood?
It was a good childhood. I think back, it seemed like always seemed like we had to sacrifice, but we really didn't. Most people will say, "Oh, I wish I'd like to go back and be a child again," or "I'd like to go back and be young again," and I don't. I never did want to do that, because I guess knowing what I know now, it wasn't as easy as I thought it was. And it would just be different. I kind of like where I am at this point in my life, and even though I can't do the things that I did when I was younger, or looked like I was when I was younger, it's where I'm supposed to be in my progression.